Hey, it's Paul. Welcome back to Y&R Update. We got a doozy for you, so I'm going to jump right into it. On today's episode, we find Lauren, and she's with Kane, and they make their way to the hospital, and they find Michael in a hospital bed, and it turns out that he was taken there after not feeling well. Now, what we find out is, well, Michael says that it has to do with the chemo and the effects of it, and he's, it's nothing to worry about. But Lauren is worried, and Kane actually spent some time with Michael, and you can tell they almost come to an understanding, and Michael doesn't seem as jealous of Kane as before. And Kane has got some kind words. He actually can really relate to this after going through what he went through with Lily. So it's really interesting. We also see Lily, and she comes to Avery right after Joe falls, and Avery calls an ambulance. But luckily for Joe, and I don't want to play this down, but he actually falls on a dumpster. Maybe not lucky, but fitting. At any rate, he seems to have some spinal injury. They grab him, put him in an ambulance, take him to the hospital. But Paul shows up right after, and this is so fitting because it's awkward for Avery because he has to ask her what she was doing in the hotel room, how this all happened, and you can see Avery squirming. This is Dylan's father she's talking to, and he really wants to know why she's going to a hotel room, why she's drinking champagne, why she couldn't have done it down there, and why they were kissing. And it is all kinds of awkward. And he really questions her intent. When she goes to the hospital, she has a flashback of Joe and all the times that he professed his love for her and wanted her back. So you can really tell she's getting really soft, and it's so creepy to watch because everyone knows Joe's a total creep. And then she hears from the doctor that Joe's going to need spinal surgery because he might not walk. Remember what I said? Yeah, it's not hard to predict this stuff. She's at his bedside, And then we see Dylan, and he is with Sharon, and he really puts the gears to her. He wants to know what she's hiding. Everything looks bad for her. How she knew with the tire iron, all this stuff. But Sharon says to him, if I was guilty, why would I point you and send you right to the murder weapon? You know what I mean? But Dylan grills her like a cop, and he says, this is what's going to go on when you face the police. And she tells Dylan, Dylan starts thinking that she's using him. She says, I'm not using you, you're the only person I can turn to, and I need you. And all of a sudden, Avery calls Dylan, and Dylan's got to take off and go to the hospital. And then we see Avery with Michael, and she tells Michael, Lauren, and Kane about what happened to Joe. Now, Michael reads her the riot act, and as well he should. She's a lawyer. First thing she did wrong was she went and blabbed everything to the first person she talked to, which was Paul, the chief of police. I mean, as a really, really good lawyer, would she ever, even under any circumstances, do this? And so Michael is really having a hard time with this. And Dylan arrives, and then Michael tells her to get her story straight. Now, Dylan wants to know what happened, and this is getting really weird because Dylan tells her he's a snake, but Avery defends him, and you know that. And eventually, Dylan said to her, you need a lawyer. And then Avery goes in, and she's talking to Joe, and she's stroking his hand and telling him that she's going to make it up to him. All what I said, she's going to be by his bedside, doing everything she can to get him through this and bringing them closer. And Dylan has to watch, and it makes me sick, it makes Dylan sick, and I know it probably makes you sick because Joe's a weasel, like I said. Then we see Sharon. Now, earlier when Dylan left Sharon, he left her at Avery's office, and he put the murder weapon, into a desk and locked it, or put it into a filing cabinet and locked it. And she shows up, and Sharon's desperate. She knows that the fix is in, and she's set up, so she wants to steal it back. But before she does that, the killer chloroforms her. And the next thing you know, Noah finds her passed out in her place. Now she wakes up and the murder weapon's on the coffee table. Now she explains to Noah what's going on, that this is the murder weapon, and he's looking at her all kinds of funny because what are all the coincidences going on? And she says to Noah that she's not guilty, and she needs to know that Noah believes her, no matter how bad this looks. And she tells him that it is the murder weapon and that someone's trying to set her up. But before she can get far, Summer shows up out of nowhere. Well, actually, she came back to talk to Noah, and I'll explain why she did that in a minute or so. But and so Summer accuses her of being the murderer, and she tries to call the cops. But before she can call the cops, guess what? Sharon is gone. Now she calls back and she calls Dylan and she calls him to say goodbye. So we know Sharon's going to go on the run, or at least that's what I think. And then we see Kyle and Summer, and this happened earlier in the episode. Now they're basking in the afterglow of, making love and whatnot, and eventually Noah shows up, and it's not only all sorts of awkward, but it doesn't go well for them because Noah lets her have it. He makes her feel guilty for hooking up with Kyle. He makes Kyle feel guilty for taking advantage of her. He's not happy about this. He's mad. He's just lost his fiance and he's venting. And in the end, Kyle comforts Summer and tells her that, they didn't do anything wrong and they should stick together. And then the last thing we see is Kane telling Lily that he's joining forces with Fenmore. But her reaction is not really what he thought. She's a little lukewarm on it and she doesn't really understand it, but she gives him her support. But like I said before, I think the reason that he's hooking up with Fenmore's is to blindside Jill, because he does definitely want the top seat at Chancellor. So look for a big storyline on that one. Anyways, that's what happened on this episode. It was a huge weekend because a lot of people were sending me messages on Twitter. We had long talks with quite a few people. I really love that. Don't forget, check out my Pinterest account. That is starting to really take off, and I'm starting to get a lot of interaction with people. I love that. And for those of you who are B&B fans, today I start my B&B Talk. That's the name of the show. I want you to check it out. It's Paul. It's Y&R Update. I'm having a blast with this. I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.